Day 18. Trial T.D. Jakes arrested after Diddy's stunning confession in court. The courtroom buzzed with anticipation as the trial entered its most explosive phase. The faces of the world's most powerful figures were drawn tight, their eyes fixed on the witness stand. In the midst of it all, a single voice echoed out, cutting through the tension like a knife. Diddy's. The music mogul, known for his empire and larger-than-life persona, stunned the courtroom and the world by making a shocking revelation that no one saw coming. His words were simple, yet they held the weight of 1,000 secrets, unraveling everything we thought we knew about his relationship with T.D. Jakes. No one had expected this bombshell. T.D. Jakes, the revered pastor and spiritual leader to millions, now found himself caught in the most dramatic of legal battles. But this wasn't just a case about business dealings or celebrity gossip. It was about a secret that had been buried for years. A connection between two men, one known for his immense power in the world of entertainment, the other a man of faith, both with legacies built on public trust. As Diddy's confession sank in, the audience collectively gasped, jaws dropping at the sheer magnitude of what they were hearing. But what did it all mean? For T.D. Jakes, this revelation wasn't just an embarrassment. It was a threat to the empire he had built through his ministry, his books, and his global influence. And for Diddy, the man who had carefully crafted his brand, the stakes were just as high. Could this admission destroy their careers? Or was it just the tip of an iceberg that had been hidden beneath the surface for far too long? The questions piled up, and with every moment that passed, the drama only deepened. The trial had just entered a new chapter, one that would test not only their legacies, but also their very souls. Would this explosive confession be the beginning of the end for both of them? Or could they somehow rise from the ashes of their shared secret? The world was watching, and the answers were still out of reach. T.D. Jakes and Sean Diddy Combs are two names that have been synonymous with influence and power in their respective fields. One built an empire in the realm of spirituality and faith, while the other ascended to global fame in the world of hip-hop and business. Their lives, which seemed worlds apart, had much more in common than most could have imagined. To understand the magnitude of their connection, we must first explore the foundational stories that shaped these men and led them to become the giants they are today. Thomas Dexter T.D. Jakes was born on June 9, 1957, in Charleston, West Virginia, to a modest family. His father, who was a businessman, struggled with his health, and his mother, who worked hard to keep the family afloat, made sure young T.D. never lost sight of the importance of faith and resilience. Growing up in the coal mining town of Charleston, Jakes faced the challenges of poverty and the emotional scars that come with being raised in an environment where success seemed out of reach for someone like him. Despite these obstacles, Jakes found a deep connection to the church early on. The spiritual community became a place of solace, and it wasn't long before he realized that his calling was to preach. At the age of 18, he moved to Indiana to attend the West Virginia State College. However, it wasn't until his time at the college that he began to hone his skills as a public speaker, using his voice to reach not just his peers but people outside of his circle as well. Jakes's path to becoming a well-known preacher began in the early 1980s. He started his own ministry known as the Greater Emmanuel Temple of Faith in Montgomery, West Virginia. Over time, his congregation grew, and his message, which blended traditional Christian principles with a modern approach to faith, resonated with many. He found that his ability to connect with people on a personal level made his preaching not just inspiring, but transformative. By the early 1990s, Jakes moved to Dallas, Texas, where he would eventually found the Potter's House, one of the largest and most influential churches in the world. The Potter's House, established in 1996, quickly became a symbol of his ministry's reach. With a congregation that grew into the tens of thousands, T.D. Jakes's preaching style was unlike any other. He had a natural charisma that was equal parts magnetic and heartfelt, and his sermons mixed motivational speaking with deep spiritual insight. His ministry's success also led to a series of highly successful books and multimedia ventures. Jakes became a best-selling author with works like Woman Thou Art Loosed, and The Lady Her Lover and Her Lord impacting millions. These works, which offered empowering messages to women and marginalized groups, further cemented Jakes' reputation as not just a preacher, but a global spiritual leader. His media company, T.D. Jakes Ministries, was a significant player in the religious and entertainment sectors, and his influence extended beyond the pulpit into the world of film and television, where he produced movies that addressed faith-based topics and real-life struggles. Through his powerful preaching and unflinching faith, Jakes was able to reshape the landscape of modern Christianity. He became a cultural figure, a voice of authority in the religious community, and a man admired by millions for his resilience, faith, and ambition. In many ways, Sean Diddy Combs' life mirrors that of T.D. Jakes in the sense that he came from humble beginnings, faced tremendous challenges, and used his innate talents to propel himself to international fame. Born on November 4, 1969 in Harlem, New York, Diddy, whose birth name is Sean John Combs, was raised by his mother Janice Combs after his father Melvin Combs was tragically shot and killed when Diddy was just a toddler. The early loss of his father had a profound effect on Diddy, shaping his determination and grit. Growing up in the tough streets of Harlem, Diddy's early life was defined by financial struggle and the difficulties of navigating a volatile neighborhood. However, his mother ensured that he received a solid education, and Diddy's early love for music and entrepreneurship was apparent. He attended Howard University in Washington, D.C., where he studied business, but his true passion lay in the world of music. During his time at Howard, he began interning at Uptown Records, a major music label at the time. At Uptown, Diddy's skill for spotting talent and his keen business sense were immediately noticed. He quickly rose through the ranks, and in 1993 he founded his own label, Bad Boy Records. His first major success came when he signed a young rapper named the Notorious B.I.G., whose debut album, Ready to Die, became a massive hit. Diddy's innovative approach to hip-hop, blending street savvy with mainstream appeal, marked the beginning of his rise to superstardom. Bad Boy Records soon became one of the most influential hip-hop labels in the world, and Diddy, who took the name Puffy early on, became known as a music mogul. His work as a producer alongside his artistry as a performer pushed him to the forefront of the entertainment industry. He released his own successful albums, including No Way Out in 1997, which solidified his place as a solo artist. By the early 2000s, Diddy had transitioned into fashion with his Sean John clothing line, which became a multi-million-dollar brand and further broadened his empire. But it wasn't just his business savvy and musical success that made Diddy a household name. His larger-than-life persona, his flashy lifestyle, and his public relationships with celebrities and models kept him in the media spotlight. He became the embodiment of the modern hip-hop mogul, and his brand was synonymous with luxury success and ambition. Throughout his career, Diddy continued to evolve. He expanded his empire into television, film, and even spirits, with his Ciroc vodka brand becoming a major player in the alcohol industry. His entrepreneurial spirit and relentless pursuit of success transformed him into a cultural icon, and he became a mentor and inspiration to young artists across the globe. While Diddy and T.D. Jakes rose to fame in different industries, their paths crossed in ways that were far from coincidental. Both men built vast empires and cultivated immense followings. Their influence stretched across borders, Diddy in the world of entertainment and business, and Jakes in the spiritual realm. Yet their personal and professional worlds seemed to be worlds apart. In the public eye, these two men rarely appeared in the same circles. Diddy's world was one of glitz, glamour, and hip-hop, while Jakes's was defined by faith, spirituality, and the reverence of his congregation. However, behind the scenes, the relationship between these two powerful figures was far more complicated. The connection between Diddy and T.D. Jakes was kept under wraps for years, shrouded in secrecy and speculation. Rumors swirled about possible business partnerships, private meetings, and unspoken ties. Both men were known to operate within spheres that thrived on power, influence, and trust. For Jakes, The ability to maintain a successful ministry and media empire required partnerships with influential individuals across various sectors, and Diddy was no stranger to the power of strategic alliances. What began as quiet, discreet business dealings soon became something more. Their relationship evolved, and while it was often discussed in whispers, it remained largely unspoken. Diddy's influence within the entertainment industry, combined with Jakes' spiritual reach, positioned them as figures who held sway over millions. Yet beneath the surface, the bond they shared had the potential to alter the course of their futures. The secret remained under wraps for years, but the pressures of living in the public eye, coupled with the inevitability of their intertwined careers, made the truth nearly impossible to keep hidden. Both men faced the ultimate test when their private relationship was revealed in the public trial. The consequences of their connection were as complex as the paths they had taken to get there. Now, as the world watched their trial unfold, the spotlight was no longer on their business or spiritual achievements. The public was forced to confront the deep and troubling connections that had been hidden in plain sight for years. How would Diddy and T.D. Jakes emerge from this scandal, and what did it mean for their respective legacies? The answer, it seemed, was still waiting to be written. The journey to global recognition and dominance in two vastly different worlds was anything but easy for T.D. Jakes and Sean Diddy Combs. Both men experienced hardships and setbacks that might have halted lesser individuals, but their determination, resilience, and vision propelled them to the heights of power, fame, and influence. Their paths, though seemingly unrelated at first, show striking similarities in the way they navigated their respective industries, overcoming obstacles to claim their rightful places at the top. T.D. Jakes' rise to fame wasn't merely about public speaking or building a large congregation. It was about transforming the way people viewed faith and spirituality. His powerful words, his electrifying presence in the pulpit, and his unwavering belief in the power of personal transformation became his trademark. He didn't just preach, he connected with people on a visceral level. Jakes' rise began quietly, but it didn't take long for his message to spread beyond his hometown in West Virginia. When he moved to Dallas in the 1990s, the real shift began. The Potter's House was born in 1996, and with it T.D. Jakes' brand of spirituality and faith gained global recognition. The church became a beacon for millions of people, particularly in the African American community, looking for guidance and inspiration. At a time when mega churches were growing across America, Jakes stood out not only because of the sheer size of his congregation, but because of the innovative ways he engaged with his audience. The church's growth was staggering. As the congregation swelled, so did his media presence. Jakes had mastered the ability to blend his personal life with his public persona, connecting with his audience through every medium possible: television, books, radio, and even the internet. His sermons weren't just religious speeches. They were motivational, offering a vision of life transformation, empowerment, and success. It wasn't just about salvation. It was about practical living, and that made him a figure of authority in both the spiritual and personal development realms. Through The Potter's Touch, his weekly television program, Jakes gained millions of followers from all walks of life. He became one of the first spiritual leaders to successfully use television as a medium to reach the masses, making him an essential fixture on Christian television networks. As his influence expanded, so did his ventures. His books, including The Lady, Her Lover, and Her Lord and Woman, Thou Art Loosed, became bestsellers, and his teachings resonated far beyond the church. T.D. Jakes wasn't just a preacher, he was a brand one that represented strength, faith, and empowerment for people in search of answers. His work in the media expanded into film and television production. His film Woman, Thou Art Loosed 2004, based on his book of the same name, was a huge success, and it set the stage for more film projects that continued to spread his message of faith and self-empowerment. T.D. Jakes' influence began to grow beyond his ministry as his public persona took shape. His ability to navigate both the business and spiritual worlds made him a powerhouse. In 2005, he was named one of the 25 most influential evangelicals in America by Time magazine, solidifying his position as a leading voice in American Christianity. But T.D. Jakes' rise wasn't just about fame or wealth. It was about redefining what it meant to be a spiritual leader in the modern world. Jakes emphasized practical living, personal growth, and the pursuit of success, all while keeping his messages rooted in faith. This blend of modern-day pragmatism and timeless spiritual wisdom earned him respect not only among churchgoers, but also in the business world. He became a sought-after speaker for corporate events, and his business empire spanning real estate, television, film publishing, and even health made him one of the most influential men in the world. Diddy's rise was equally meteoric, yet it happened in an entirely different arena. Born Sean John Combs on November 4, 1969, in Harlem, New York. Diddy's early life was marred by tragedy. His father, Melvin Combs, was murdered when Diddy was just a child, leaving a lasting impact on the young boy. Raised by his mother, Janice Combs, who worked tirelessly to support her family, Diddy developed an intense drive to succeed at an early age. He wasn't just surviving, he was determined to thrive. Diddy's path to fame started in a much humbler setting than the luxurious world he would eventually dominate. He attended Howard University, where he studied business, but his passion for music and entrepreneurship soon outweighed his desire for a traditional college education. He dropped out of Howard and returned to New York, where he began working as an intern at Uptown Records in 1989. Diddy's early career in the music industry was characterized by his relentless work ethic and an eye for spotting talent. He quickly rose through the ranks at Uptown, earning recognition for his ability to make stars. His first big break came when he signed the notorious B.I.G., whose 1994 debut album, Ready to Die, would become one of the most influential rap albums of all time. Through his work with Biggie, Diddy established himself as a formidable force in the industry. But he wasn't content with simply producing hits, he wanted to create his own legacy. In 1993, he founded Bad Boy Records, marking the beginning of his empire. The label's success came almost overnight, thanks in no small part to Diddy's unique approach to music and branding. He mixed catchy, radio-friendly hooks with streetwise authenticity, creating a sound that was both commercially successful and artistically respected. The success of Bad Boy Records was epitomized by the release of Biggie's second album, Life After Death, in 1997, which catapulted Diddy to the forefront of the hip-hop world. But Diddy wasn't just a music mogul, he was a visionary. He understood the power of branding and media long before it became a staple in the industry. In the late 1990s, he ventured into fashion, launching his Sean John clothing line in 1998. The brand was a huge success, and Diddy's influence grew exponentially. His fashion line helped shape the culture of hip-hop and urban fashion, and he became an icon in the industry. As his music and fashion ventures flourished, Diddy's public image as a playboy entrepreneur and mogul became just as important as his musical career. He was frequently in the tabloids, not just for his business dealings, but for his high-profile relationships with famous women, including Jennifer Lopez and Kim Porter, the mother of his children. His ability to stay in the public eye while expanding his business empire made him one of the most well-known figures in entertainment. Diddy continued to dominate the hip-hop scene throughout the 2000s, not only as a producer and artist, but as a powerful businessman. In 2002, he was named one of the world's most powerful celebrities by Forbes magazine, and his net worth began to soar. In addition to his work with Bad Boy and his clothing line, Diddy expanded into various industries from television to spirits, launching Ciroc Vodka in 2007. This partnership would prove lucrative, with Diddy becoming the face of the brand and earning significant profits. His constant reinvention of himself, whether as a music mogul, fashion icon, or philanthropist, kept him relevant in an ever-changing industry. He was a mentor to countless artists and a role model for young entrepreneurs. By the time the 2010s rolled around, Diddy was no longer just a rap mogul. He had cemented his place as a global business empire with influence that extended beyond music. While T.D. Jakes built his empire through faith and spirituality, and Diddy through entertainment and business, Both men had become cultural forces in their own right. They had mastered the art of self-promotion and were adept at forging strategic alliances with influential figures. Diddy's reach in the entertainment industry was unmatched, while Jake's presence in the spiritual community was unparalleled. Yet despite their differences, there were common threads in their rise to fame. Both men had come from humble beginnings. Both had faced challenges that would have broken others. And perhaps most importantly, both men understood the importance of influence, of controlling the narrative, and of leveraging their platforms to expand their legacies. But it was their ability to remain resilient, despite the storms that threatened to derail them, that solidified their places in the pantheon of greats. Diddy's ambition knew no bounds, and Jake's faith in his calling was unwavering. The bond they shared, though never publicly acknowledged, was one that had the potential to redefine the boundaries of power and influence. What was once a well-kept secret had now become the heart of a public spectacle. The rise to fame of TD Jakes and Diddy had forever changed the way we view power and influence, making their eventual connection, and the fallout from that revelation, all the more significant. In the end, both men had proved that success was not just about what you achieved, but about how you managed to rise above the challenges and remain true to your vision, even when the world was watching. For TD Jakes and Diddy, their rises to fame and success were anything but ordinary. But as is often the case with figures of such immense influence, their public personas were far from the whole story. Behind the polished image of the spiritual leader and the entertainment mogul lay a web of secrets, unspoken truths that when revealed would shake their empires to their very core. The dark side of fame, the hidden truths that lurked beneath the surface, and the complex nature of their relationship would all come to light in the most unexpected of ways. TD Jakes had spent decades building an empire on the foundation of faith, trust, and inspiration. He was a man whose sermons resonated with millions, a spiritual beacon who shaped the lives of many. However, his rise to prominence was not without its own controversies. As his ministry grew, so did the whispers about his personal life and business dealings. There were rumors of financial mismanagement, questionable partnerships, and relationships with powerful figures that raised eyebrows. Yet none of these whispers seemed to be able to penetrate the walls surrounding Jakes' ministry. Despite his public image of humility and grace, there were accusations that TD Jakes had used his platform for personal gain, accumulating wealth through questionable means. It wasn't just about the size of his church or the millions he made from his media empire. Some questioned the ethics of his business practices, wondering whether his ministry's enormous financial success had come at the expense of the very people who trusted him the most. Were these mere allegations? Or was there a darker truth hidden beneath the glitzy facade of the Potter's house? But perhaps the most shocking revelation came when it was revealed that Jakes had been involved in a secret relationship with Diddy, a connection that had been concealed for years. The admission rocked the faith community to its core. Jakes, who had built his career on the trust of his followers, was now faced with the harsh reality that his reputation was at risk. The relationship, never publicly acknowledged, raised questions about the true nature of his dealings with the entertainment industry. Had his success been more about business savvy and less about spiritual guidance? Had his connection with Diddy played a role in expanding his influence? These questions loomed large as the scandal unfolded. Diddy, for all his success, had always been a polarizing figure in the world of entertainment. A man known for his swagger, business acumen, and relentless ambition, he had built a brand that seemed untouchable. However, the secrets that lay beneath his public persona were equally as dark and complicated as those of Jakes. For years, Diddy's empire had been built on calculated moves, strategic partnerships, explosive media moments, and an ability to control the narrative. But behind the shiny facade of hip-hop mogul and businessman, there were whispers about his role in the industry's more shadowy dealings. Rumors about his involvement in underhanded business practices and his relationships with powerful figures in the entertainment world had circulated for years. Some speculated that his rise to power wasn't just about talent and timing, but about the alliances he had formed with the right people, people who had helped him climb the ladder while keeping their own hands clean. Diddy's secret relationship with T.D. Jakes was perhaps the most unsettling truth to emerge. The revelation wasn't just a scandal. It was a window into a world where power, influence, and money blurred the lines of morality and transparency. Were Diddy and Jakes merely business partners, or was there something more at play? Their secret connection raised questions about how far these two men were willing to go to protect their legacies and influence. Had they been manipulating the system using their respective platforms to expand their reach, build alliances, and amass wealth at any cost? The public had no answers, only speculation, and an increasingly darker narrative surrounding their lives. As the trial unfolded, the hidden truths of Diddy and T.D. Jakes' relationship began to unravel. The public, once in awe of their success and influence, began to see them through a new lens. The trust that had been built over years of carefully curated public images was shattered. What had once been private was now very much out in the open, leaving both men to grapple with the fallout. For Jakes, the revelations raised doubts about his integrity and his true role in the entertainment world. His followers, who had once viewed him as a beacon of truth and spiritual guidance, began to question whether he had been operating from a place of authenticity or had he been playing a much larger game. The damage to his reputation was immeasurable. The very foundation of his ministry, which had once served as a sanctuary for millions, now seemed fractured, torn apart by the discovery of his ties to Diddy. For Diddy, the trial was a double-edged sword. On one hand, his confession about his relationship with Jakes seemed to reveal a side of him that few had ever seen, a side marked by vulnerability, perhaps even desperation. On the other hand, it only added fuel to the fire of the accusations that had dogged him for years. Had his business empire been built on trust, or had he been a pawn in a much larger game of power and manipulation? The lines between hero and villain became increasingly blurred as the trial progressed, and Diddy's own role in the larger conspiracy began to take center stage. In the end, the revelations surrounding Diddy and T.D. Jakes were not just about one trial, they were about the dark undercurrents that run through the worlds of entertainment and faith. Power, money, and influence had a way of creating tangled webs of deceit, and no one, it seemed, was immune from their pull. The public had witnessed the unraveling of two of the most powerful men in their respective fields, and the impact of their fall from grace would reverberate for years to come. Would they ever regain their status, or had the dark side of their lives destroyed everything they had worked so hard to build? Only time would tell, but the truth was now out, and there was no turning back. As the dust settles and the world watches, one undeniable truth remains: both Diddy and T.D. Jakes were brought to their knees by the very power and influence they had spent their lives cultivating. The public's perception of these two iconic figures had been irrevocably altered, but there was still a glimmer of hope in the aftermath of the trial. For both men, this was not just a story of scandal, it was a tale of redemption. It was a stark reminder that no one, no matter how powerful, is immune from the consequences of their actions. Yet in their darkest hour, there was still the possibility for growth and transformation. Could they rise from the ashes of their scandalous pasts? Could Diddy reclaim his empire and redefine his legacy, and could T.D. Jakes rebuild his ministry with honesty and humility? The path ahead wasn't clear, but what was certain was that the world was watching. The story of Diddy and T.D. Jakes wasn't just about a trial, it was about the complexities of fame, power, and the possibility of redemption. As we reflect on their journey, one question remains. Can the human spirit truly recover from such a fall, or is the damage too deep to repair? Leave your thoughts in the comments below, and don't forget to subscribe to Legends of Black Excellence for more captivating stories like this one. The saga of Diddy and T.D. Jakes may be over, but their legacy, both the triumphs and the trials, will resonate forever.